Alright, hi everyone. So I'm putting this as a separate intro because I want to explain myself a little bit. This video is not the normal glazed ham kind of video. This is actually a remake of a video of mine that I did forever ago on Shadows of the Damned. And I love that video. The problem is, due to a stupid mistake on my end, I used a Siva Gunner rip of Jesus of Suburbia, but done to be Hopes and Dreams from Undertale. And that got my video copyright claimed, and I had to mute a large portion of that video. So I figured I would go back and just re-record the audio, kind of as a nuclear option for if I needed to get something done and just had to get it out. And this seemed like a good one because it annoys me that if you watch that video, it's just completely ruined. So, here we are to redo that mistake and fix things. Okay, that's all I needed to say. I'll let past me get into what he needs to talk about there so you can actually experience that video as I intended. Goodbye! It's not a particularly bold claim to state that shooting demons in video games go hand in hand. This said, video games and shooting demons go hand in hand, and Shadows of the Damned is no exception. In this 2011 action survival horror shooter, you play as Garcia Hotspur, a demon hunter with an expletive for a middle name, who is on the quest to save his girlfriend Paula from the Lord of Demons himself. Garcia has one main tool at his disposal, a demon named Johnson that acts as his torch, guns, and motorcycle at one point. As serious of a concept as this sounds like it could be, this game is almost entirely a comedy, in line with the director's other works. Unlike a lot of games, the director for this game is actually important to understanding why this game is as unhinged as it is, and thus, the director of this game is Suda51. Suda51, or 51, I've heard it both ways, is a man who directed and wrote games like No More Heroes, No More Heroes 2, No More Heroes 3, Killer 7, Killer is Dead, and of course, my dearly beloved game and dearly beloved video on the channel, Lollipop Chainsaw. These games are, for the most part, extremely bizarre, balancing comedy, violence, mature themes, and sexual elements in a story that's amazing and fun to experience. Anyhows, back to Shadows of the Damned. For this essay, I'm going to talk about the story, the gameplay, the characters, and how much of a pain in the ass it is to find this game and play it. Sit down, strap in, and shut up as we go on a journey to save the girl from the Lord of the Demons. Also, hi, side note again, me from the future here, this was written way before a Shadows of the Damned remaster was announced, and it's actually pretty easy to go and play this game now, but I'm gonna keep my original points going forward as intended and not comment on it, because I think it keeps the spirit of this. Anyway, let's go. The game starts off with a demon hitting the ground, bloody and on the verge of being sent back to hell. Then we see our hero, Garcia, as he's about to execute this demon using one of his demon companion's gun forms. The hero and the demon have some exchange, and then Garcia blows the dude's head off when he realizes that this was just a distraction. He runs up to his apartment, and you then get thrown into the tutorial. Learn how to move, how to do things, and most importantly, how to use Johnson's revolver form. Your apartment is under siege, your girlfriend Paula is in danger, and you do what any demon hunter would do, and you start blasting. Blast enough hell monkeys, as Garcia so eloquently calls them, and see the Lord of Demons himself, Fleming. He's here to take Paula for some reason, and then he insults Garcia, talking about how his Johnson will never measure up to his, and that his powers are weak. Basically, the entire exchange is all boner jokes, and it's great. But eventually, Fleming opens his entire body, consumes Paula, and heads back into hell by jumping out of your window into a portal below, and you follow through. You eventually land, and you're on a highway. Some lesser reviewer may joke that it's saying it's literally a highway to hell, but not me. I'm above such low-hanging fruit for my jokes. So anyways, Johnson turns into a motorcycle, and you drive on a highway, surprisingly absent, of fire. Eventually, you reach the gates to hell. You have no choice, so you kick down the door, Johnson in hand, and begin your quest to save the girl. You're in a village, Johnson turns into a torch and he acts as a tour guide of sorts. He knows this world. He was here until he fought to break free, and so the two begin. Fight some demons and eventually learn of a core mechanic of the game, light. Light is an important tool in hell because the darkness is overwhelming and will literally suck the life out of any living thing trapped in it. And so, once you're in hell, you finally learn what Johnson's revolver form is called, after learning about how you can use the light shot to stun demons and activate/reactivate the goat lamps throughout the world when necessary. Johnson's revolver form is called the Boner, and so Garcia is running around hell, boner in hand, blasting demons and using an ability called the Light Shot, which shoots out of the boner and is a ball of white light. Yeah, this game is incredible. So, you get the idea. You make your way through the City of the Damned and various other locations in hell, all on the way to Fleming's Castle of Hassle, as the locals call it. Along the way, you fight assorted bosses, solve puzzles involving darkness, light, and murder, and unlock more and more powerful forms of Johnson, like a shotgun that shoots skulls and an LMG that shoots teeth, and all that fun stuff. The only other thing that matters story-wise is that on his way to save the girl, Garcia watches Paula die about 900 times. I don't know the actual number and it's not my job to count kills, that's for someone else to do. But this does matter for later. Along the way to the castle, Garcia and Johnson eventually end up at a library where Garcia learns the tale of the Unbreakable Huntress. The Unbreakable Huntress was a female demon hunter who fought her way all the way to Fleming, on track to defeat him, only to get all of her limbs severed. Nevertheless, she never gave up, and then Fleming, admiring her spirit, decided to heal her wounds and torture her forever, making sure that she can never truly die. She still fights against him and occasionally makes it all the way back to the surface world. I forgot to mention this interaction, but Johnson does ask how Garcia met Paula, and their story is a love story as old as time. He found her unconscious in a dumpster. So he does what any rational person would do and take her into safety, and he takes care of her. She's an unstable train wreck, constantly talking about demons and how much she doesn't want to go back to wherever she was. Occasionally, she acted a little strange and demon-esque, but it's just how it is. For some reason, Garcia never questioned this, and their relationship continued on. She gets kidnapped by demons, Garcia goes to hell to save her, and now is now. The game never directly confirms this, but it's pretty heavily implied that Paula is the Unbreakable Huntress, so we'll assume it's true because it explains a lot about her bizarre behavior. Upon reaching the top of the Castle of Hassle, you fight Fleming using all of your fully upgraded guns as you try not to run out of ammo or alcohol, and eventually explode the Demon Lord into a bunch of tiny pieces. And there's the girl. So you approach her, and then she freaks out at you and becomes a demon. She's got like 8 wings, and you gotta shoot all of them off in order to calm her down. So, you shoot your girlfriend's wings like 8,000 times, and then eventually comfort her as the darkness takes over, and thus, you die with Paula in your arms. But not really. The game continues with you and Paula in Garcia's apartment having dinner, when suddenly the phone starts ringing. The voice is Fleming's, Paula is going demon mode, and Garcia prepares to fight through hell over and over again, until he's killed every single demon there and finally freed Paula from her curse. And that's the game. Not a lot of story to go over, just a lot of boss fights and puzzles, and it's pretty cool, all things considered. Speaking of gameplay, it's time to talk about demon hunting. It's the core of the game, and it's pretty solid. So let's break it down and go from boss to boss and make jokes along the way, eh? The first fight is with a dude named George. Well, a demon named George anyways. In level 2-2, you'll face off against this dude with a harmonica in his neck, and your goal is to blow him back to hell as you furiously try to dodge his bull rush. Using the power of the light shot, barrels of light, and your guns, you shoot the man and then run around frantically looking for a goat lamp to shoot, rinse and repeat until you've defeated him. This fight is honestly really interesting in practice. It's a very good fight that acts as a pretty good introductory boss, while still being really unique and not establishing an obvious formula that all the bosses would follow. I'll give this game a lot of credit in that regard. The variety in boss fights definitely helps this game's case. But what if you didn't kill George? Because you didn't kill George, and he eats his own heart in front of you and thus becomes a fully fledged demon. He also has a horse for some reason. This fight does some real fun stuff. It's a ring fight with a boss that runs around the ring and stops to do some special attacks where you pull a Zelda and shoot the weak spots. Do it enough and he'll fall. It's a fun fight, albeit a little annoying at times when you have to manage the part where you have to do Yeal, shoot the target while you're in darkness, except for the fact that I forgot to mention his final phase. The one where he eats his horse, becomes the size of Godzilla, and starts stomping around the arena. You know, that small issue. So, this phase is simply to break all of the targets on the boss in order to win. It's something you've seen 1,000 times before in other games, but it's okay. It's still kinda interesting. The next fight establishes a pattern for the next 3, and it's the first Reaper fight. As the song says, don't fear the Reaper, because Maris Grimm is the easiest boss in the game. Dodge her scythe, wait for her to do her Darkness Shroud, hit her with the light shot, and then shoot the core until it breaks, rinse and repeat until she's dead, and congratulations, you've successfully taken down the first Reaper. Then you've got 2 more to fight, after going through several levels of demon shooting and puzzles, of course. Eventually, you reach Colleen Grimm, and she's a slightly more advanced version of her sister. You do the same scythe dodging and light shots in darkness as before, but this time, instead of having to only focus on one target, there's actually several illusions thrown into the mix. Distinguish the real Colleen and hit her with the light shot to get the chance to shoot the core. Eventually, break the core and you've got 2 Reapers down. But before you can fight the third and final Reaper sister, you've got to fight the Stinky Crow boss. His name is actually Elliot Thomas, and his vocabulary is limited to 2 words, an expletive and a pronoun. Hence, the pronoun is you. So, you're on a bridge and you see the demon guy in humanoid form. Then he turns into a giant demon bird and you gotta shoot him back into death. This fight is pretty unique as the boss is constantly moving, and of course the game keeps up changing how the fight works. It's unique and one of the more interesting fights in the game, and I won't explain how it works because it's a weird one and a really cool one at that. And now, the final Reaper, Guillotine Grimm. She follows the same pattern as her sisters before her, except she has the Scythe attack, a Guillotine attack, and a Shockwave attack. Then her Darkness attack is a bit more challenging. I'll say this is definitely one of the harder fights in the game. It stands out especially because it's a surprisingly difficult one, and it's a pretty unexpected jump-in challenge. But you'll manage, even if you have to run around the arena furiously praying that the ammo crates respawn. The next fight is a part of a series of levels that are extremely unique for the game. There's a set of storybook levels, as I'll call them, where the game turns into a 2D side-scroller shooter. The fight here in the last level is against Justine. She's actually appeared a couple of times before now, and she's an opera singer demon, because apparently demons like opera. Who would have thought? Anyways, Justine's fight is incredibly easy, but one of the coolest fights visually, and it shows. And of course, there's Fleming himself. He's the final big bad boss, and as such, he's extremely annoying to fight. Once you figure it out, it's not the worst, but the learning curve is a bit shitty. Like, once he's broken up into several parts, you have to hit a specific chunk with the dentist's homing attack that takes forever to charge up, or the giant skull you need to launch into the bubble shield, or using the powers of the Hot Boner's explosive charge. It's a fight that makes you use all of your upgraded weapons without telling you what you need to be doing, so expect to run out of ammo several times, likely run out of alcohol, and be on very low health until it's finally over. It's not my favorite fight, especially because he has an attack where he pulls open his cloak and puts Paula out like a shield. If you shoot her, it's an instant game over, so watch it. Eventually, he will fall, and as I said in the story section, you have to fight Paula while she's in demon mode. Paula in demon mode is a pretty easy fight. Stage 1 involves you needing to find the right door to escape, then you gotta shoot off her wings and die together. It's a pretty cool fight, it's incredibly easy by comparison to Fleming, and a much more interesting fight too. All in all, not the worst final boss a game could have, and at least it's a poetic one. A worthwhile end to a worthwhile game, I suppose. The game isn't that complicated, and while gameplay is at the forefront of the experience and the characters take a backseat, the characters still make this an enjoyable experience. From Garcia and Johnson to Christopher the half-demon shopkeep to One-Eyed William, hell ain't empty here, so let's talk about the cast of characters on this journey. Garcia is pretty cool. He's pretty detached from reality and being a normal guy, but he's really good at what he does. And in part because he's the machismo demon hunter man, and in part because he's such a stereotypical badass that it almost feels like a parody of what he is. I might be overhyping his character a bit, but it's still a decent character to play as on this trip. Johnson is the real star of the show. He's a flaming skull demon that escaped hell and became a tool to help kill demons. He's also British, which explains why he went to hell and became a demon. He acts as your tour guide, and it's fascinating to see him do his things as he talks about all sorts of weird stuff, like how strawberries are a demon's favorite fruit because they're actually made out of tongues. Or how alcohol is incredibly prevalent in hell, and it's wonderful. He's also the gun, so that's respectable. You upgrade him by shoving blue gems into the hole in his skull. He's basically a crime against nature, and he can't swear without being censored. Honestly, he's a real standout character, and that's even without mentioning the big thing. See, you've heard of the Big Iron, but are you ready for the Big Boner? Exactly. It's a mission-exclusive thing where Johnson makes a phone call that makes his iron become the Big Iron. And by that, I mean he becomes a comically long revolver and nothing else. The mission kinda sucks, but the Big Boner is a very funny concept in this game. The demons are pretty varied characters. Fleming is definitely a thing in this game. I honestly don't care about him all that much, and he just stands as a target and source for dick jokes, which is commendable. Justine is a very strange character with a tragic backstory and is an oddly compelling character considering she's only able to sing opera. The Grimm sisters are interesting enough, Stinky Crow is kinda funny for a one-note joke character and all that jazz. Christopher is my favorite demon though. He's the shopkeep man who sells you various things you'll need in exchange for gems. He doesn't do much, but I love him. He's a really dumb character that makes the experience a lot more enjoyable. Of course, I need to wrap this short character section up with Paula. She's a really interesting character for this game. She constantly dies in front of you, she'll go zombie mode and hunt you down a couple of times, and some other stuff. But what's really interesting is the lore behind the character. Throughout the game, it's hinted that she's cursed to be with Fleming forever, which is why she constantly tries to escape him and his torture by reaching the land of the living. Garcia's story of how they met even reflects this, how Paula is constantly scared of going back to hell, and her curse also explains how she can be tortured over and over and never die. It's because Fleming won't let her. His solution was to make her partially a demon so that he had control, thus explaining her demon powers in the final battle of the game, and her demon mode breakdown when the demons come up to take her back to hell. Her and Garcia's relationship is fascinating as they live in a constant cycle of going to hell and back, killing hundreds upon thousands of demons every time. It's an interesting cycle that I'm sure has some deeper literary connections, and it'd be interesting to argue that they're a retelling of whatever story is like this, but that's for someone who's a little more academically inclined and more literary inclined than I am. I just want to talk about the funny game where you kill demons with a weapon called the Boner in a pseudo-academic way. So here's the thing. This game is playable on an Xbox One and Xbox Series X/S, so you'd think you'd be able to purchase it digitally from the Microsoft Store, right? But you can't, for some stupid reason. Now, the obvious answer is that because EA lost the copyright, the ownership defaulted back to the company that created it, the game can't be purchased as the only released version has EA's grubby insignia all over it. Thus, this creates an annoying paradox that makes the game extremely annoying to get. But hey, I was able to acquire the game physically and play it, so it's not that hard to find, right? Well, yes and no. In concept, it should be easy, but it's a pain in the ass to find a decent price on the game online, and it's a bit of a rarity to find it in person. The point is, if the console lets you play the game and the store shows the game like it exists, then you'd think you'd be able to play the thing. It's really annoying that in order to play the game, you have to go out of your way to get a physical copy of it. That said, at least physical copies exist, because nothing is worse than finding out that a game was only available digitally and then going to find it only to see it's no longer available. It sucks, it's tedious, and I hate it. Games should be accessible, especially if you're able to play it on a console. If the store says I can play the game, then I should be able to buy the damn thing digitally. I love physical games, don't get me wrong, but sometimes you just want to play and buy the thing digitally for like $20 and play it in a convenient format. So many games are lost, and as much as Xbox's backwards compatibility does for preservation of games, it makes it really hard to play the ones that are rare and to find physically. This said, I have some minor hopes for this game because becoming more accessible again. Earlier this year, a remastered version of Lollipop Chainsaw was announced. As of me writing this in 2022, it should be still happening. And as of me saying this in 2025, it happened. It's great. It's very fun. Anyway, and over the years, Limited Run Games has done physical releases for the first 2 No More Heroes games, as well as digital releases for those games alongside them. And so maybe, just maybe, this game won't be left to die in the shadows, because it's so wonderful and I'd hate to see it just disappear into the abyss. And wouldn't you know it, I called it because Limited Run Games did it again. They released a physical copy of Shadows of the Damned. It got a collector's edition that I didn't buy because I bought the Lollipop Chainsaw collector's edition instead. You know where my interests lie if you know this channel. Anyway, sorry. That's unprofessional and not part of the original script. I'm sorry. Let's carry on about the rest of our day, shall we? This game is pretty good. It's definitely one of the better Suda51 games I've played, and one of my favorites of his work. I can't say it's one of my favorite games ever, but I do enjoy it. The controls are a bit clunky, and the game definitely could have used a little more polish, but overall, it's an experience I recommend. I know that infamously the director hates this game due to the assorted rewrites he had to do at EA's request, but the final product is still pretty good. All in all, I'd give this game a solid 7.5 out of 10, because it's a pretty solid game with some problems that hold it back. I do really recommend this one if you're unfamiliar with the director's style, because it's definitely easily accessible from the perspective of someone who hasn't played like No More Heroes. And as a fan of his work, it's still a really good time, albeit not as over-the-top and iconic as No More Heroes, or as truly a masterpiece as Lollipop Chainsaw is. It's still a very good game. Anyways, thank you for listening to this weird little remake on an essay that got a lot of copyright issues originally. It means a lot that I get to do this and that maybe you watched it. If you got here, hey, leave a comment on it. I'd love to know. Anyway, this is a game that's a pain in the ass to find. Thank you for listening to me talk about it. Thanks again, and good night.